I'm back. So, Jax West from Stephen Avery Project, Justice with Jax, MAM Gossip. We were just live reading the first chapter, or my first installment, first part of Wrongfully Abused, Making an Advocate for Stephen Avery, that by Jax West, that you can get on Amazon. And no, I'm not doing this just to sell a book, even though I'm going to write a second book. And I know people are going to accuse me again of just trying to make money, but no, you really don't. I don't make money off my book. So this live is because I am back in contact with Steven, and he and we text um because there's an app you can do where you can text inmates. Yay, Bryce! Which we have a pinned comment or a pinned post here on Stephen Avery Project where you can get instructions on how you can set up something so you can text with Stephen. It does cost money. It's like 15 cents every time I text with him. Um, Here, I will pull it up on my phone now. Um, so it's called GTL, Getting Out. So here's what you see. So here are the text messages back forth with Stephen and I. And so I had told him, what is this? This was a really weird post from him. So when I register for accounts and when I go to a prison for a visit or whatever, I have to use my government name. So my name is Jacqueline. My nickname is Jax. I am Jackie to my family. Um, and so, and I've talked to Stephen. I've been on visits with Stephen. Um, Stephen calls me Jax. Here's one of our visits. Um, but he started this. I had taken a screenshot of this and sent it to Christopher because it's so weird. So it's like, so Jacqueline. And it's like, that's so weird that it says Jacqueline. And I mean, Steven's got a tablet, so he's using a tablet when he does this. But it was just weird that it said from Steven, because the only person to call me Jacqueline is my mother, who died a few months ago. I was only Jacqueline when I was in trouble. Nobody calls me Jacqueline. So, but it said, so Jacqueline, so are you going to do another Facebook Live soon? And if you do, then I will talk to you because I want to tell you all I want to say, okay? So let me know when you are going to do it. And then I said, I think I will do another one next Saturday at 10 a.m. I work weekdays, 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., so only available at night or weekends. If there is a daytime you want me to go live, let me know. And of course, anything you want me to put out there for your supporters. And then Steven's response was, okay, I will let you know or I will call you and talk. Maybe on weekday, okay? Maybe tomorrow. And I said, sure, I'm available anytime after 4:30. If it is easier to call during the day, I can take your call, especially if I have an idea of when you're calling. And he said, okay, I will let you know. And then I hadn't heard from him, and this was yesterday. So I texted him and said, hey, Steven, just letting you know I am going live tomorrow, Saturday at 10 a.m. And he said, okay, I will talk to you tonight. Okay. And it just so happened that yesterday I had to work late. And so he called me it was like 4:45, and I was still at work and my boss was there. I am chief of staff for a state representative, and she had been in session all week down at our Capitol, and she had just come back. And so she was stopping in the office for me to update her on things or whatever, because she has to go back down to Springfield next week for session. And so my boss is literally there when my phone rings, and I have that number set to where it just says Stephen Avery. So, you hear my phone saying call from Stephen Avery. And my boss is cool, and so I just say to my boss, it's Stephen Avery calling me from prison. And she's like, okay, yeah, go ahead and take the call. So I talked to Stephen yesterday, and so he wanted me to talk about his brother Earl. So that's what this live is about. Um, Earl is being a problem in Stephen's life. Earl is preventing their father. Tony, I run this page, and Christopher is the moderator of this page. So right now, when you're seeing anything that's by Stephen Avery Project being posted, that is moderator Christopher. And on other time posts you see or whatnot, you don't know for sure if it's me or Christopher. But this is my page, and Christopher does most of the work. Um, so Earl is up in Crivets because that's Stephen's dad, Alan, has lived in Crivets most of the time. That's where he enjoys living and being. So when you see him in Making a Murderer and he's showing his garden and all that stuff, that is all up in Crivets. So Dolores would stay. Dolores liked being at the salvage yard. So Dolores would be there. Alan was up north. They have a lot of property in. Oh my God, we all live on Avery Road. I have that. I'm going to pull it off my wall. Oh, I can't. Crap. My husband made me a sign that says we all live on Avery Road because that was the thing we had at one point, that we wanted people taking pictures of them holding a sign they make that says we all live on Avery Road. And we had a whole thread where we wanted people listing where they're from, that we all live on Avery Road. Sorry, squirrel. And that happens to me all the time when I do these lives, that I see posts and then I get off of what I was talking about. Um, so they've got a lot of land in Crivets. Bryce, who's on here, he knows how much they have. It's a number. I have a weird number thing that I don't really remember numbers. So Bryce can tell you how much property they have up in Crivets, but there's a lot. And so they have different homes or trailers on parts of this land. So Earl, I believe, is right across the street from Al. And I did ask Stephen, I'm like, how old is Alan? And he said he thinks 89. I think that he's 89 years old. So um, I think Earl might have like power of attorney over Alan. And Al can't drive. So somebody has to take him to the prison. And there are two people, well, now three, because I would happily take him, and I am not on Stephen's visitors list. I would drive to Crivets, pick him up. How far is Crivets from my house? Um, I would drive to Crivets and pick him up. It's 237 miles from my house. 3 hours and 40 minutes it would take me to get to Crivets. Um, I would drive to Crivets, pick Al up, bring him to the prison, find something to do while Alan's in the prison, and then pick him up when his visit's over and drive him back. But there's Sandy and what is his name? Mark? Is that his name? Um, those are two people that are on Stephen's visitors list who have taken Alan to prison and would happily do it now. I don't know that the guy at all. I've never had any contact with that man. Sandy and I at one time had a good relationship, and then it went bad. So I do not have I don't have a relationship with either one of those people. But I don't have to have a relationship with somebody or to like them to just be happy if they do something that makes Stephen happy. And I did, just had time. But I just said it again. Just Denise. Um, so I'm happy anybody who would pick Stephen up or Alan up and take him to the prison. So, but Earl not only is blocking Alan from going to the prison, he's blocking people from having any contact with him, family members. Stephen has called for a wellness check before, um, but something not right is happening there. And the family already took Dolores away from Stephen. And now they've taken Alan. So, what's up? Oh, Anna. Um, yeah. Anna, would you ever do a live video with me to talk about what you know? Um, we can talk offline about that. I know you and I have messaged privately before. Um, and I don't know if it's something I should reach out to Kathleen about before we do, if you were willing to go live to talk about it. Um, I mean, I know we've talked about some of what you know on here before, but I think your story is important, Anna. Um, but let me get back to Earl. Um, so Stephen just, Stephen is very upset with Earl and wanted me to let people know that he's upset with Earl. Um, and he now wonders if Earl had something to do with whatever happened to Teresa Halbach. He said that Earl and Colburn were best friends, that Earl and Colburn went to school together. He said Earl is who crushed Bobby's blazer. Um, he said that Earl has threatened Chuck and told him, I will put you in the ground. Oh, I'm so sorry about your seizures. You should write it down. So I mean, that's with me going through my book. It's I don't remember stuff that now I'm going to read in the book because I wrote it. And the stuff that Anna, is important. So write it down when you can remember. And I'm sorry about your memory, and I have that as well. And I actually just talked about that with my doctor, that I want to be tested for that. Um, so he's but he said that Earl has told Chuck, so the brothers are Chuck, Earl, and Stephen, that Earl has told Chuck, I'll put you in the ground. We all know Earl's history. Christopher, I'm pulling it up on my phone now. I asked Christopher to put together Earl's stuff for me for this video because, again, see, Christopher does all the hard work for me. So I am just going to read the message as Christopher sent it to me. 1992, battery. Earl pleaded no contest to a battery charge for attacking his wife. He was sentenced to 18 months of probation. 1995 to 1996, sexual assault of children. Earl was charged in 1995 with sexually abusing his two young daughters. In 1996, he pleaded no contest to fourth-degree sexual assault and battery. He was sentenced to 45 days in jail, 200 hours of community service, and ordered to undergo treatment. 2011 to 2012. Hidden camera incident. Inappropriate recording. Earl was arrested and charged with 2 felony counts of capturing an image of nudity without consent. The allegation: he allegedly set up a hidden video camera in a bathroom changing area during a pool party at his home in Whitelaw. The victims. The victims included adults and children, with some as young as 3 years old. The arrest. His wife reportedly contacted the police after discovering the videos, and Earl subsequently admitted his actions to investigators. Suspicious movements. On the day Teresa Halbach's RAV4 was discovered, Earl was reportedly hiding under a pile of clothes in a bedroom when investigators arrived at his home to talk to him. And that was something that Stephen mentioned to me on the phone yesterday to bring up about Earl. You know, how is that not suspicious that he hid underneath a bunch of clothes? Access to the property. As an employee of the salvage yard, Earl had full access to the property where the victim's vehicle and remains were found. He was also reportedly hunting on the property around the time of the disappearance. Stephen and I talked about that yesterday as well, that Earl is a hunter and was regularly shooting around that place. Accusations by family. Stephen Avery's defense team formally named Earl as a third-party suspect, Denny suspect, in 2009, arguing he had the motive, opportunity, and a history of violence against women to have committed the crime. Financial disputes. There have been long-standing feuds over family land. In 2021, Earl reportedly sold a piece of property in Crivets that he owned jointly with Stephen, an action that occurred during a period of intense family tension. Statements against Stephen. At various points, Earl has fluctuated between supporting Stephen and making comments that cast doubt on his innocence, contributing to the deep divisions within the Avery family, which is something Stephen and I talked about yesterday, how Earl is part of that convicting a murderer bullshit that you can watch me debunk on the Justice with Jack's YouTube channel, where I watched every one of those episodes, took notes, and reviewed them. And maybe we will do that again. Kayla Avery, in early 2006, Kayla reportedly told a school counselor she was scared of the family environment, specifically mentioning her father, Earl. Neighbors and local Manitowoc residents have described Earl Avery as dirty and isolated, often viewing him as someone that did not contribute to or care about the community. Some amateur investigators have pointed to the fact that Earl had to replace his glasses on the day Teresa Halbach disappeared, suggested he may have broken them in a struggle. Conflicting stories. Earl initially told police he drove a golf cart past the area where Teresa's car was later found and did not see it, despite being a rabbit hunter familiar with every vehicle on the lot. Later, he claimed the car wasn't there, supporting Stephen's defense that it was planted. Family acquaintances described Earl Avery as having a track record of perversion. One friend claimed to see Earl lifting the skirt of their young daughter, which led to them cutting off all contact with him. Why did Earl Avery call Stephen at 7 a.m. on the morning that the RAV4 was found? These are Christopher's words that I'm just reading, that he put for me to say. And I have not read them before. I'm reading them right now. But I also want to say a big thank you to Christopher for all the work he put into this and that he continues to do for this page in this case. Earl, are you upset because you have no alibi for the night of Teresa Halbach's disappearance? Are you worried that we will learn that in court you reported the reason you hid a camera in a laundry basket in a bathroom was because you had sexual problems? Is your concern that your admitted confession of having sexual issues gives the motive to kill Teresa? The Denny law requires 3 key criteria to be met. 1. Suspect must have specific motive. Thank you, Siri. Did sexual problems give Earl motive to rape and kill Teresa? 2. Suspect must have direct contact with the victim. Earl reported he knew Teresa was coming, as that is why Stephen left work. He also wanted to sell the front loader and asked Stephen to send her down to the quarry. 3. Must be present at location of the murder. Well, Earl and Chucky and Scott T and Bobby all had lack of an alibi. And then Christopher sent me, as you'll see on here, is a bunch of screenshots. There's 16 screenshots. And when you send a bunch of screenshots at one time, they don't necessarily put them in the correct order. And I so love that Christopher sent these to me. I did talk about this with Steven yesterday too. And Christopher just sent these to me this morning. So Christopher doesn't even know that Steven and I talked about this yesterday on the phone. But when I was at the Drizzen Nyrider event that we'll be talking about when I get to that chapter in my book, Earl was messaging me. And so Christopher has sent me screenshots of the back and forth with Earl and I. And so I am going to read those to you now because they're kind of hilarious. But they won't necessarily be in the right order. And I have not put it in the correct order. So let's just go. So the first thing we see is me saying, so this is not in the proper order because Earl reached out to me first. And so my response to him was, so you like to threaten women? And Earl said, psycho. And I said, well, I am not sexually repressed, so I have to look at naked kids. And then he sends to me, now this time in capitals and in parentheses, he says, psycho. And so I say, so I had typed child molester, but you know that stupid auto check, spell check, it changed it to say child milestone. And so then he says, you don't even know how to spell. And so I said, got me there, tough guy. And Earl says, I'm blocking you now, so goodbye. And I don't care what you post. Everybody knows me, psycho. And I said, I'm crushed. And then because, he said he was blocking me right then. So then I put, so I waited a few seconds in between all these posts. And I'm just being an asshole. But I said, am I blocked yet? How about now? Nope, not yet. You must be busy patrolling or looking at cameras to find kids. And then he said, no, I was showing all of this to my mom. And now, because see, this isn't in the right order. So let me see if I can. No, it's just going to get me totally off track if I flip in these. So we'll get to that at some point. So on the next screenshot, it's me saying, I'm impressed you could spell that. I'm not the one that takes pictures of naked 3-year-olds. And then Earl says, and I really don't like this word. I do not say this word, but I am going to say it now because this is what he typed. He said, you're fucking retarded too. And it's T-O, not T-O-O. And he said, hope you're not planting evidence over there. Are you coming up here to say something to me? Yes, I'm on a live.
Well, they can enjoy it too.
What?
What do you think this is? Put your hand out.
That looks like a fingernail.
Yeah.
Holy fucking fuck!
Uh-huh.
Take this back. Get this out of my
What am I going to do? I can't put it back on.
How did you do that?
Well, Not something I want to do again.
Are you okay?
Nope.
Do you need to go to care?
No, I'm fucking fine.
He ripped off his whole fucking fingernail. Bryce says, hey.
Hello.
Oh my god. Ugh. Oh, that was in my hand. You fucking, they're nasty. So, okay, getting back to this. So this text going back and forth is not when I was at the Drizzen Nyrider thing. This is when I was currently, it's a day that Jeff and I had gone to Manitowoc. And so we had been live, and so he started messaging me threats about being in Manitowoc. And I was actually driving home at that time and just not letting him know where I was. So that's why he says, hope you're not planting evidence over there. And because of what he had said before with the fucking R word, I said, nice language. Do you kiss your mother with that mouth or just kids? And he said, you're not worth my time, you fat bitch. Why don't you get a life, start working on a treadmill, and take care of your medical condition? And I said, really? You're calling someone fat? Honey, please. And he said, just stay away from us, psycho. And I said, you're the one harassing and threatening me. And he said, I don't give a fuck. Leave me alone in my family. And I said, I have done nothing, yet you keep threatening me. And he said, because you're like my ex wife. And then that's where I say what was on the first thing. So you like to threaten women? All right. So on this next screenshot, which I can see the date, December 2nd, 2018, 2:45 p.m. So Earl says, I called Manitowoc Sheriff's Department on you. Do not step 1 foot on my property. I will get you for trespassing. 2 words. Trespassing. Is it blurry? Can you guys see it? Because it looks, yeah, it's blurry. It's not, the camera's not focusing on it. But trespassing. 2 words. Trespassing. I will get you for trespassing. And yes, I do got cameras. And so I said, nope, no trespassing. You're all good. And Earl says, I have been patrolling the area anyway. And I said, not very well. I'm still here. And I wasn't, but I'm just being an asshole. And he says, and I rent the property by the sign, so you better not be standing on my property because you will get a summons in the mail for trespassing. He had it right that time. Trespassing because I did warn you. And I said, has to be posted by law. Sorry. And Earl says, I have it on Messenger that I told you. And I said, not legal. Why don't you ask KZ on that? And he said, you are such a psycho. So that's where it begins, where you see, I said, so you like to threaten women, and he keeps calling me psycho. So on the next page, it says, Earl says, wait till she tells everybody that you're picking on her babies. Nobody's going to like you. And her, he's meaning his mother. I said, how am I picking on you? And he said, I got over 3,000 friends on here. They show me everything you post. You are a bully and a hater. And I said, how so? Because I say Carla steals money, which she does, and even Steven says so. Earl says, Steven is out of your life. Get to that point. He don't want nothing to do with you. And so this was during that period of time when Steven was no longer talking to me. But he's talking to me now. He talked to me yesterday. And I said, what does that have to do with Steven saying Carla is a thief? And Earl says, where are you have the right to be in somebody else's business? And then I said, why do you keep ignoring the question? Carla is a thief. And now this screenshot, I'm saying, you do that. I'm with Drizzen and Nyrider now. I'll give them your best. And I sent him a picture, and this picture's in my book, of me with Drizzen and Nyrider. Uh-huh. And so then Earl says, you gotta post, and got an A are two different words. You got a post. This one I showed my mom, and she says that she does not like you one bit. She don't ever want to see you again, and she likes everybody. And I said, sure she did. And he said, I'm going to make a live video with her tomorrow about you. And I said, goody. You know all I want is attention. Thanks for talking about me. And he says, wait till she tells everybody you're picking on. So that's the thing that I read you before, that picking on her babies, nobody's going to like you. And I'll have you know, no video was ever made of him with Dolores talking about me. And I have 3 times, 2 or 3 times, that I visited with Dolores. Those pictures are posted here on Stephen Avery Project. They're in my book. Um, Dolores, I've talked to Dolores on the phone. Dolores didn't have a problem with me. And so on this page, I say, yes, I know you posted about me. Big deal. You got nothing, and you're the one who doesn't have a life. I'm very happy in my life, but thanks for your concern. And Earl said, if you were happy with your life, you wouldn't be on this or shorten that site down. And that's what we're going to do. And I said, you can't, but someone with a 40 ICIOO wouldn't know that. And I don't know if that screenshot's in here, but that's because Earl once texted me something about him having a 40 ICIOO, which we then figured out he meant IQ. But he was spelling IQ as ICIOO. Very weird. Um, And Earl says, Zellner, I'll take it to court secretly so you don't get no fame or fortune. The whole family likes you just as much as Ken Kratz. I said, LOL, you are pretty funny, and I'm so crushed that you guys don't like me. I don't know how I can carry on. And Earl says, I got to spend some quality time with my grandkids instead of wasting time with your worthless ass. Have a nice life. Keep me and my family are yours. And then that's where I say, you do that. I'm with Drizzen and Night Rider now. I'll give them your best. And so on this page, I say, really? You're so charming. Are you flirting with me? Maybe not, because I'm an adult. And Earl says, why don't you post some more stuff about me that everybody knows already? This you might need earmuffs because he says a bad word, and I will say the word. He says, okay, so that everybody knows already, you're dumb cunt. Put that on there. You're going to be getting a letter from Steve from Zellner that you're going to be in court when Steve is suing you. And I said, sure I am. Why did you hide under clothes? Why did you let them search without a warrant? Why did you tape children changing clothes? Earl's response is, that is very old. Like, I don't want, bitch, you know what you are called, right? You are called a bully, and I'm better than you. I could be the stupidest person in the world, and I would still be better than you. And if you would know, my ex-wife set me up. So you don't know everything. She's a stupid bitch like you because she didn't have enough guts to leave. Didn't know how I'm going to tell you this one more time. Leave my family alone. I put shit on the internet about your family doing something with your life. And then that's where I say, yes, I know you posted about me. Big deal. You got nothing. Um, so I'm guessing this screenshot's because this one's different size or whatever. Um, so it's here's the IQ. Oh, it's not C, it's K. Um, so I say you were never with me. Don't rip off supporters then. And Earl says you're stupid. You're stupid, or 2 words, stupid or than me. And I got 40 space word TO space IKIOO. And then he corrected it to, I got a 40 IQ and you're stupider than me. So maybe he was doing talk to text. I don't know. Um, so now this from Earl says, "Hey Brad Jr., we got," and I'm just reading as it's written. "Hey Brad Jr., we got always have these fucking haters and jealous people that want attention like you and Brad. Fucking assholes, why don't you do us a favor and leave us alone and do something useful with your fucking miserable life?" And I said, "I'm not doing anything to you, but you are harassing me." And he said, "All you want is attention. You're like an old fucking mutt." And then that's where I say, "Really? You're so charming. Are you flirting with me?" Okay, so that's all of them between me. Oh, wait. No, it's not. Okay. Okay. All right. So Earl says, and this is half cut off, so I don't know what the beginning of it is. Earl says, "Do you want to see a picture of it in the crusher?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "You're not my type. Goodbye. I like old man now." And so I said, "So you lied again?" "No picture. Sad face." And Earl said, "How much will it cost me to leave me alone and my family? Because I can see that's all you want is money." And I said, "Are you looking in a mirror? I am the only one not asking for money, unlike you." And then he said, "I love you, Jax West. I'm going to steal you away from your boyfriend with my charm and my love." And then he did a bunch of hearts and then, like, I don't, a duck with hearts. I don't know. And okay, so here we're talking about his truck. Again, these are not in the right order. So it's me saying, "All he asked if for you to start occasionally too. He got home, but you trashed it and didn't tell him. Shame, shame, shame." And he said, "And it's my mom's and I crushed it." I said, "No, it's not. Stephen is so proud of that truck and can't wait to get it back, but you're lying to him." That's when all Stephen asked is for them to, the truck that he bought in the 2 years that he was out, that he bought this truck, and I think it was a F-250, and Earl trashed it. Um, and Earl says, I already got it, girlfriend and two boyfriends. I don't need no more, so leave me alone." And I said, "You're the one messaging me, sweetheart." And then he said, "Do you want to see a picture of it in the crusher?" And that's where he said, "Sure." And that, "You're not my type, blah, blah, blah." So, um, let's see if I scroll back this way. All right, I'm going to scroll back and go the other way. Earl says, "No, I was showing all of this to my mom, and now you got her crying." And I said, "Sure, I do." And he said, "You're a mean person, and God will deal with you someday." And I said, "You are. I am the only person fighting for Stephen and Brendan's innocence, while you, who said he was guilty and didn't visit until Making a Murderer came out, is just trying to make money off it." Earl says, "Cycle, I got everything I need that, like you, nothing." And I said, "Then why begging people for money? Do you have a treadmill?" And he said, "Yes, and I got an eating addiction, so it's considered a medical condition. So fuck off, cycle." Because I got a put up with people in, or should I say animals like you. And I said, "Just big boned, eh? What condition makes you molest your daughters?" And then this screenshot says, Earl says, "I didn't use stupid cycle." And I said, "Not what your record says, honey." And he says, "Don't you have a life? You got a bother and harass other people and look at the records like a psycho." And I said, "I have a great life, Barb. Thank you for asking." "Your record, Earl. So sad." And he says, "What's my record? Not yours. It's none of your business." And I said, "It's public record, big boy." And he said, "For people that don't have a life that want to be in somebody else's, I hope you don't cut kids or a husband. They're probably miserable." And I said, "You're the one contacting me. I'm just going about living my best life, and you keep contacting me to call me names and threaten." And that's when threatens got a B on B as in Bob instead of N, so a typo. And so Earl says, "You got that spelling going on again." And then a thumbs up. Then he sent me pictures of a bunch of pigs. And I said, "Ooh, pictures." And then he sent me pictures of a bunch of snakes. And I said, "You're really slacking on your patrol duties," because he thought I was driving around Manitowoc at the time. And then Earl said, "Trust me, you don't want me over there." And I said, "I'm not your type, and I'm an adult." And then Earl said, "Go home if you got one." And I said, "You have two, don't you?" And he said, "No." And I said, "No? What's the place in Crivets with Kayla then?" And he said, "I have four, stupid bitch." And I said, "Yet you need money from supporters." And Earl says, "And they're all paid for." And here's where maybe you can kind of see, if it's not blurred, the pigs, the snakes he was sending me. And I said, "Wonder where you got the money." And then Earl said, "Actually, I got five, sorry." And I said, "Yeah, and I can see how that's hard to keep track of." And he said, "I heard you didn't have no money." And I said, "Yep, sadly I'm poor. But I don't ask people to give me money. Weird." And he said, "Your parents must be proud." And I said, "They are, thanks for asking." And he said, "Have a good life, stay out of mine. Goodbye, psycho." And that's where I bring up the truck. Was it you or truck who ruined Steven's truck? Carla says you guys did it. And he says, "None of your business. Stay in your own." And then that's where I say, all he asked for is for you to start occasionally meaning, so these are typos, till he got home, but you trashed it and didn't tell him. Shame, shame, shame. And then that's where Earl says, "And it's my mom's, and I crushed it." And so I've read you all the rest of these. So that is my text messages or Facebook messages with Earl. So we went over Earl's history of, and I don't even think we really talked about his, that didn't he choke his wife? Um, let's slap Earl sticker. Um, so he abused his wife. He stuck a camera in a bathroom to watch kids change into their bathing suits. The family was all in Crivets the day that the RAV4 was found at the salvage yard. Stephen and Brendan were in Crivets. This was a scheduled trip to go up to Crivets because Alan's roof needed to be replaced. And that is where Stephen cut his finger that is used in the case, because I believe it was a steel roof, if I remember correctly, that they were doing. And that's how Stephen cut the one finger. Didn't rip his fingernail off like my stupid husband put his. Oh, that's so gross. Um, so Earl is the one who allowed them to come search the salvage yard without a warrant. Um, Earl knew Teresa Halbach was going there that day. Earl testified that he and his friend Robert something, I can't remember his name, were driving around in the golf cart shooting at, I believe the word they used was varmints. Um, so Earl was regularly shooting around that property. Earl, who did not go visit Stephen while he was in prison and had no contact with Stephen until Making a Murderer came out, that he totally abandoned his brother and would be in the press saying Stephen was guilty when he knew Stephen wasn't there. Um, Stephen has heard the things that Alan said on that convicting a murderer. You have to pay to watch that. I don't even know where that's available anymore. Um, I paid for it so I could watch it and review it all for everybody so people wouldn't have to watch it. And Christopher did reach out to Candace Owens and said I would debate her because everything, I go point by point on the things that they put in there on how that's not actual. Um, and I'm going to guess we need to do it again. But those videos are on the Justice with Jack's YouTube page. So go like and subscribe or whatever you do on that YouTube crap. Um, but Earl is very suspicious in all of this. Earl has a record. Earl has showed violent tendencies. Earl has shown that he's got a sexual deviancy problem. Uh, doesn't matter the age, children. Um, so the day Teresa Halbach was there, he was in the golf cart shooting at stuff. So could he have come across Teresa Halbach? Could he have accidentally shot her? Could he have intentionally shot her? There's a lot of suspicious things with Earl. And I did talk to Stephen on the phone yesterday about this. I've talked about this several times in the past. I'm sure it's in my book. But on one of my trips to Manitowoc, when I was friends with the family, so the family was walking through the salvage yard with me, Carla Chase, who is Chuck's daughter, so Stephen's niece, her husband Stacy, who is a lovely guy, and I have nothing against Stacy at all except for he's married to a beast. Um, Stacy told me that Stephen's brothers, that the family did not like Stephen, that the 2 years Stephen was out of prison in between Penny and Teresa, that Stephen was mean to the family. But the family was just sucking it up because of that $36 million lawsuit. And they wanted a piece of that lawsuit. And I do not fault Stephen for being mean to his family, if true, during those 2 years, because they abandoned him during the Penny Bernstein case in the 18 years he was in for that and didn't visit him. But there they all were when it was proved that he was innocent. Um, they're waiting to be there for the cameras to walk with Stephen out of that prison. And so they were happy for Stephen to get charged with something else because they thought that $36 million would still come Stephen's way. And with him in prison, then they get it. So, Earl. Hi, Earl. This is on the public Stephen Avery Project page, so you do not have to be a follower to see it. Even in our closed MAM gossip group, I know they have people that are in there that spy on them or spy on me, and they themselves have fake names that are in there that I don't know who they are. I don't do any of that. I don't go to any of their pages. Now there are times that people do send me screenshots of stuff that they say about me, but whatever. But this is public. and it will Facebook will only keep this up for 30 days, but I will be uploading it to the Justice with Jags YouTube channel, which is free. I don't have a subscribe thing or whatever. I'm not an influencer. I don't even have, in order to make money on YouTube, you have to first have 1,000 subscribers, and I don't have 1,000. So there's no money to be made for me to have these videos on there. And I mean, I know now Facebook has it where, so Debbie and Siri did that stars thing that gives me money. The money I make on Facebook is hardly anything. And I, I put money in commissary accounts and all of that. But anyways, Earl, I'm talking directly to Earl. Anytime you want, Earl, you and I can have a little chat. I will come do it in person. We can do it on Zoom. Um, let's chat, Earl. We don't have to talk about the Teresa Albach case. We can talk straight up on why did you keep Dolores from Stephen? And now why are you keeping Alan from Stephen? The man is in prison. Nobody's asking you to take Alan there. You're not put out at all. Sandy or that dude, I think his name is Mark, they would take Alan there. It's no cost to you. Stephen can't talk to his dad on the phone. And I know this with my dad. My dad is currently on a trip, his first trip in 40 years. And I have to go to the airport today to pick him up, but I can't call him to see how he's doing on his trip because my dad is hard of hearing and doesn't put his hearing aids in. My dad doesn't know how to use a cell phone. And my dad is 15 years, like 15 years younger or more than Al. So, thank you, Siri. Um, so he can't talk to his dad on the phone. A visit is the only way that he can have access to his dad. And Alan is, or Earl is preventing Alan from visiting his son. Earl will say Alan doesn't want to visit him, and we know that is not true. And he is stopping people from even visiting Alan. I know Sandy and I do not, Sandy doesn't like me. She feels that I'm a threat to her relationship with Steven. She wants to be like the only one in Steven's life, whatever. But she's taken Alan a lot and visits with Alan, and Alan enjoys the visits from Sandy. Why would you block Sandy from being able to visit Alan? So come, let's talk, Earl. According to Stephen, Chuck is not happy that Earl is not allowing Alan to visit Stephen, and I believe Earl is preventing Chuck from seeing him. And Stephen said to me yesterday that Earl said to Chuck, I will put you in the ground. What is going on, Earl? Goodbye, Earl. I love that song by the Chicks. Na 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 na. Explain yourself. Why can't Alan visit Stephen? I don't know Alan's health. Maybe there's a chance that the drive would be too much for him. I don't know. But another one of the cases that I advocate for, Marnie Yang, who we're going to court soon to get the ruling on her evidentiary hearing. But where's my picture with Marnie? Well, there's a picture of Marnie. Marnie's dad is as old as Al. he's in really poor health, cancer, everything. The man has told me he's only staying alive to try and get his daughter out of prison, that he actually wants to, as he says, go on the long sleep. But he's fighting for Marnie, and he isn't physically capable of driving to the prison that his daughter's in, so I drive him down there. Um, and then I visit Marnie, and Melissa are in the same prison. So while Larry visits Marnie, I visit Melissa. Um, so I don't know what Alan's health is. Um, so maybe he can't go on the visit, but we don't know. We can't take Earl's word for it. So why don't you let Sandy and or Mark visit him? And then they can update Stephen on the state of his dad. Very simple. There's no reason to keep Alan away unless you're doing something shady. You can see from his history that we went over. You can see from the text messages I had of me and Earl going back and forth. This man's got some problems. And he did one time that, and I talked to Stephen about this yesterday. That's why he had mentioned to me that he used to drive through the quarry late at night to go to his trailer when he didn't want to wake anybody up or whatever. He would come in through the back way because I had told him I went from the Redont deer camp. I walked through the quarry to the deer camp because I wanted to show the distance as a crow flies, how close the salvage yard is to the deer camp, which is Cuss Road, where it's thought that Teresa Hallbach, that's where she was caught and taken from, the dead end there at Cuss Road. And when I was doing that live video, and I believe that video we did in the MAM gossip group, and it's now on the YouTube channel. But when I was doing the live video and when I was walking through the deer camp, and as I turned my phone, you saw like the windows of my car because my husband was driving the car. And so you saw my reflection in the window of my car. Because months later, when I got the ticket in the mail for trespassing, or as Earl would say, trespassing, that's how I got busted. Is also, I guess, I think you see in one of the videos, or at one spot in the video, my license plate. But I will also note that in the ticket they said my car was black and my car is blue. So, or my car at that time was blue. And my car at this time is blue, but it's a different blue or a different car. So again, going with the, is the RAV4 blue or green? And now you have Manitowoc saying my car was black and my car is blue. And so I had to go up to Manitowoc, go to that courthouse, go to court, and I had to pay my trespassing ticket for being going in the Redont quarry, because I believe it was Chuck that called Redont and got him to call the cops on me. I don't remember for sure. It's probably in my book, so we'll get to that when I read it, on who actually did it. And I swear when I did that walk, there was no sign on Cuss Road that said no trespassing, but I believe there is now. So every time I've gone up there since the ticket that I got, I have not gone on their property. I'm obeying the law and I'm not trespassing. But I did mention to Stephen yesterday. I mean, Earl goes back and forth on saying Stephen's guilty or innocent, but this is to the family or to supporters or everything in general. If you believe Stephen is innocent, why would you come for me? I am one of the biggest supporters of Stephen's innocence. So even Stephen, twice now over my time involved in the case, that Stephen stopped speaking to me. Um, I am the biggest supporter. Whether or not Stephen likes me or talks to me, I am still here on Stephen Avery Project saying Stephen is innocent. Why? Because I follow the facts and the truth and the science. And what is being done to Stephen is wrong. I don't care if he likes me or likes what I'm doing. But why would anybody who believes in Stephen's innocence have a problem with what I'm doing? Maybe you don't like me personally. I am an asshole. I am, earmuffs, as Earl called me, I am a cunt. I am. Um, One of my personal mottos, slogans is I can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Your actions determine my reactions. I've said that a million times. I should trademark it. I think it's brilliant. I do have higher than a 40 IQ. Oh, cute asshole. Thanks, Bryce. Um, so I totally get people not liking me. Got it. I'm not going to fight you on that. I'm not going to fight somebody calling me a bitch or an asshole or a cunt. Whatever. But I believe in Steven's innocence. And everything I do is in support of Stephen and Brendan's innocence. I have problems with this family. I do. And I call out the bad behavior. Always have, always will. If you're new to making a murderer, I too, when I was new, was very empathetic, sympathetic to the family, to all of them. That's why I was friends with Barb and Chuck, and I've been a guest in their home. Uh, Following this case and looking into it, I've had several different theories of what happened. Um, I have never thought that Earl did something to Teresa, but with everything that's going on lately and just refreshing my memory on all of that Christopher put together, there are suspicions. Earl was there. And I've always said for Stephen and Brendan, if you just raped, murdered a woman and you've got evidence, body, car, all this stuff that you have to get rid of, why would you go to Crivets? You wouldn't go. And it would be the perfect time, since the whole family was going to Crivets, except we see Earl, um, to hide stuff. Makes zero sense. They wouldn't have done that. Now, if everything was already hidden, because if it were Stephen and Brendan that did it, that RAV4 wouldn't have been kept there forever. It would have been crushed and gotten rid of. So if that RAV4 was found that it was crushed or whatever, that everything was gone, then you go to Crivets. You don't go to Crivets days after. What's the date that he went to Crivets? So the crime allegedly happened on Halloween. And isn't it like November 4th? It's like November 4th or 5th. Remember, I'm not good with dates. So I'm not sure on this 4th and 5th on when the RAV was found, when the paperboy saw Bobby pushing the RAV4 back onto the property. Bobby was pushing the car back onto the property early in the morning the day everybody went to Crivets. So Stephen would have been at home in his trailer the day that Bobby was doing it. Car was found on November 5th. Thank you, Bryce. Um, it makes no sense. And Stacy Chase had told me um, that the brothers had told him if you want to get rid of a car, you would crush it. And then you would take that crushed car and you would put it in another car. And then you would crush that and you would never find it again. So there's no reason to leave the RAV4 there. Plus, to us, it's a junkyard. To the men that run that junkyard, there's a method to the madness on why cars were parked where they were, the same types of cars or whatever. They had the RAV4 like a sore thumb, that it was double parked in an area that it wasn't lined up with other cars. It was going a different direction. It wasn't with the same kind of cars. So, and then stuff was put on top of it that, so none of that makes any sense. I know it's been said they don't want the choppers of the flyover to see it. That just, it's literally in between a pond and trees. You could have put it in the pond. The pond was deep enough that you could have submerged that car. Then, my husband and I have driven through that quarry that's behind it. And I never remember which one's a quarry and which one's a gravel pit. But the Verdant thing, one is the Verdant and one is the Manitowoc that's farther away. But we have driven through the Verdant one. There are tall, huge evergreen trees and such in that quarry that you literally could drive a car right underneath it and it would never be seen. And the people who are working in that quarry would never be going over to that section and to find it. So even if you wanted to just hide it temporarily and then we're going to crush it, that's what you would have done with it if you truly wanted to hide it. And yeah, Pam of God found that vehicle in 15 minutes. And that Earl let her in. And was it Earl that told her which way to go? Because there is no way you can find that vehicle with the amount of cars that were there at that time. We have pictures of what the salvage yard looked like at that time, that you're finding it in 15 minutes. I have videos I have taken of and timing it twice that I walked the Manitowoc salvage yard. Can't do it anymore because family all hates me. But this was before when I was allowed on the property. So my walk in Manitowoc, in the salvage yard, was legal then. No trespassing for me at that point. Lots of things pointing at Earl, 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 Earl. So all you junior detectives out there, feel free to do your own deep dive and look into Earl Avery. I'm almost done, Debbie. Thank you so much for being here. Melissa Kaluzinski is supposed to call me any minute, so I'm going to be hopping off to take that call. But thank you for being here, Debbie, and for your stars. You're a star, Debbie. It's a Debbie show. So all you junior detectives, look into Earl Avery. See what you can find. You can message Stephen Avery Project here on Facebook. I also have a Gmail, which is official Stephen Avery Project at gmail.com. You can send it to me there. Or if you have really good information, send it to Kathleen Zellner. I always tell people if you have any kind of evidence, reach out to Kathleen. If you do not hear back from Kathleen, then let me know. Because sometimes I have a better way. She responds. Sometimes I have a better chance at her responding to me. Other times she doesn't respond to me because who am I? Who cares? But you can message me and I can double check with Kathleen and see if she got your evidence. But you can go to her website, which is Kathleen T, as in Thomas, KathleenTZellner.com. She has a page there that's dedicated to Stephen. She also has a page there dedicated to Melissa Kaluzinski, who's calling me any minute, that she is also the attorney for. But you can go on the page for Stephen, and she's got information there on how she's got a direct line that is just to leave tips on Stephen's case. So it's just a voicemail that you're leaving. And then she's got an email to send stuff just on Stephen's case there. And she also has a bunch of links and stuff on that page for filings she's done. Um, I don't know if she's got any videos. She does have a video of one of the times when we were in court for Melissa on the Melissa page. So I'm not sure about Stephen. Um, Melissa Kaluzinski, Nicole, is another case that I advocate for. And you'll see Melissa's army back here. And these two tattoos here, this butterfly and this butterfly, um, Melissa likes to draw, and she loves butterflies, specifically the monarch. And so, as a birthday gift to me, she sent me these drawings that she did. This butterfly is called the Melissa Blues, and so I told her I would get those tattooed on me. So Melissa Kaluzinski is a case here in Illinois, another wrongful conviction case, another coerced confession, another Reed technique. Kathleen Zellner is her attorney. Melissa has been in prison for 13 years, I want to say. Bad with dates. Um, People get mad on here since this is Stephen Avery Project if I talk about any other cases. So that's why I have the Facebook page Justice with Jax. So that's where you can find my other cases. But Kathleen is her attorney, so that's why I think sometimes I can sneak it through to talk about Melissa, because it is it's not connected to Stephen's case. It's connected to Kathleen, who is their attorney. Um, there's lots of stuff about Melissa out there that you can find, and I do in my book that is available on Amazon. All my shameless plugs that people say I'm just trying to make money off of. I do have a chapter in that book about Melissa. I have countless videos and such about Melissa too. Um, but I'm not going to go into her case now, because I'm wrapping this video up, and Melissa is calling me any minute because she called me this morning and it was really bad reception, and she asked if she could call me back, and I said I had a live video to do and that I couldn't talk until afternoon. So she said she was going to call me at noon. Obviously, when you're in prison, you can't know for sure if you can get on the phone. Sometimes things happen. So that's another reason I got so upset with the family taking away Stephen's phone calls with his mom, because they will say he called at a bad time or whatever. And it's like, Stephen can't control the time that he can use the phone. Oh, thank you, Denise. Um, you're in prison. You can talk when you can talk. They have more opportunities now that inmates have tablets. So, like, the call that Melissa and I had this morning, she was on her tablet. So she was literally washing her clothes. She has to wash her own clothes. She has to pay for her own laundry detergent and everything. People don't realize this. When people go to prison, they want to say, they're getting free room and board. You have to pay for everything. Your family pays for everything. The state, the taxpayers are not paying for you. Melissa has to buy her own clothes. She has to pay for her own laundry detergent. So she was in the laundry room talking to me, doing laundry. And so the reception was really bad and it was delayed. and such. So, and it was funny when Steven called me yesterday too. He knows because I've told him before that I work from 9:30 to 4:30. So when he called me at 4:45, he said, "Are you driving home?" Because when I talked to him the time before that, I was literally driving home from work at that time. So I'm like, "I'm driving right now." So he's like, "Are you driving home?" And I'm like, "No, I have to work late today, so I'm here at work." Um, so yeah, circling back as I wrap this up, Earl Avery, let Stephen see your dad. This is ridiculous. Or explain to us why he can't. And let somebody trustworthy go see Alan for themselves. I will go. I get it if you don't want me there. So then let Sandy or that guy Mark, who don't even like me and I don't have any access to. We have no I have no communication with either one of them. But I think Sandy's done things that I don't like, but I think I would trust her in this situation if she went to see Alan, that she would say the truth on what his health is. I just got a message from somebody that I'm not going to say their name. I'm only seeing what came up on my phone. I will check your message when I can, um, and get back to you. Christopher might get to it before me, but we will be in talks with you. Um, that this person just sent me some um, possible information on this case. I don't know how old Sandy is, Billy Joe. I love your name, by the way, and with your last name to it. All because I know you've been on here for years. I just love your name. I don't know how to say your last name, Billy Joe Brodigan. It's just a pretty name. Anyway, sorry. But yeah, Sandy's pretty old. Um, you know, Steven's in his 50s, right? Steven's like 59. I want to say Sandy's in her 70s. I'm sure somebody can Google Sandy or Sandra Greenman. And but yeah, she's pretty old too. That's another reason why her and Steven would never really be a couple. Steven wants a family. He wants kids. He was robbed. Oh, is Steven 62? Ooh, I thought he was still in his 50s. I'm 54, going to be 55 in July. Um, and I always say I'm old, but um, I just, she's in her 80s. Yeah. So Sandy's way up there. But I do appreciate, as I've said, any solace, any anything she does for Stephen and his father. That makes them feel good. That distracts them from the horribleness that has happened in their life. So I'm going to leave on this. Steve is 63. Where have I been? See, I'm horrible with numbers. So Stephen is like basically almost 10 years older than me, 9 years older than me. Okay, I'll try and plant that in my head to remember it going forward. Um, so calling this to a close, since this is something about Earl, all you junior detectives, find out what you can about Earl. Let us know. Earl, defend yourself. You can reach out to me. I know you know how because you've done it before. Um, Explain to me why you're keeping Alan from Stephen. And I will then update the supporters. Or we can do it live if you don't trust me to tell your whole side of the story. Doesn't that sounds fair, right? I don't trust if Earl just makes a video. I don't trust if Earl just makes a video and Ellen says, "I hate you, Stephen, and I never want to see you again." Because I believe that um, he would be manipulated and forced to say those things. So that's why I would want, if it's a video with Ellen, I need somebody neutral who would be there. So the best obviously would be me, for me to see it for myself. Um, or let it be Sandy, or let it be Mark. I don't know if this is something Kathleen Zellner would get involved in. Maybe not herself, but maybe one of her people. If that's what you would prefer, Earl, I'll reach out to Kathleen and ask her if somebody would go and do a welfare check on Ellen so we know for ourselves. So just let me know, Earl. And the person who's messaging our page, um, I haven't read it all, but I appreciate it. And um, from what I've seen, the person have said they have never, they don't want to get involved because they're afraid. And I totally get that, because look at what Manitowoc has done to Stephen. And look at possibly whoever truly did what they did to Teresa and got away with it, that those people are free. So you would be afraid to say anything and to be out there. So I don't know if this person has reached out to Kathleen with what they know. I will be looking at their messages and I will go from there. And see what that's all about. So we're going to end this video, and I will at some point this weekend get it uploaded to YouTube, because Facebook will delete this in 30 days. I do not know when I am going to do the next live video. The first one today was part 1 or chapter 1 or whatever you want to call it of reading my book. We will get a Facebook event posted when we decide on the date and time for that. If I hear from Earl or something happens in the case, we go live as soon as I can. If you hear something has happened in the case and it is not posted here, so you have seen it in the news or whatever before we do, please message it to us so we can jump on it. When court filings happen, I reach out to the clerk to get a copy of it, to read it to everybody immediately. So let us know, because you may get it before we do. So now I am going to possibly go upload this to YouTube if I have time to do it. I do not know when Melissa is calling me. My stepdaughter is coming over to visit for a little while today. It's also 62 degrees here currently and supposed to get up to 70. That's why I'm in a tank top, because I'm hoping to go for a hike today, but I may not have time to with everything that's going on. But you will just have to. Yep, just. Need to start counting and making hashtags on how many times I say just in my book when I read it. Oh. Oh, lovely. I'm such a dope. Um, so thank you everybody for joining me live. Thank you to those who gave us the stars. Thank you to Christopher for banning the person saying I'm only doing this to make money for my book. Thank you to Earl for watching. And Earl, I hope you will reach out to me so we can get this settled and Stephen can see his dad. Get out there and enjoy the day, everybody. And investigation continues.